Get off of your chair, awesome this year, I promise it's here. So watch, rate, comment, and share. And click this up, listen up, I'm telling you all of this because it's just begun. Hit me with some videos from Siggy Guns.
Yo, Ziggy here, and it's week 3 of Fantasy Start and Sit-'em. Last week I did okay. Obviously, the big mistake was Jay Cutler, starting Jay Cutler. I should have known better than to ever say start Jay Cutler. But I did call a couple of good ones. CJ Spiller obviously had a big game, so did Dwayne Bowe. So there was some good picks in there. But, you know, I'm having fun with this series, and I like the interaction that this caused. I like the comments that I'm getting, even if they're negative like the Jay Cutler ones, but that's alright. That's why we do this. So let's get started in week 3. Alright, week 3 startums. Tony Romo. I'm going to say start him. They're playing Tampa Bay. Eli Manning threw 510 yards against Tampa Bay. And now the Dallas Cowboys coming off a horrible loss to the Seahawks. I think they're just going to go nuts, and they're at home. I see a huge day for Tony Romo. Start Tony Romo. Another person you got to start is Alex Smith. I mean, who would have thought that he would have or be a fantasy option? You know, obviously he's the #1 pick. You knew there was probably the potential there whenever he got drafted, but he's finally putting it all together. Yeah, it's been a long time, but against Minnesota hasn't done anything to stop anybody. So go ahead and start Alex Smith. And then another guy, ooh, this one I really hate putting him in a start list because he's kind of like Jay Cutler on fantasy football, and that's Ben Rothlisberger. However, Ben Roethlisberger has a pretty good matchup against Oakland. Oakland Raiders are just playing terrible, and I feel bad for my homie because he's a big Raiders fan, but they've just been looking awful. But Ben Roethlisberger looks like a good play, so go ahead and start him. On the sit-'em list, you know, sticking with Oakland Raiders, man, Carson Palmer, he did real good last week, so that might get people to be like, oh, he's going to be good. And against Pittsburgh, you saw what Mark Sanchez did, nothing. You know, I was right about that one last week, and I don't think he's going to do anything against Pittsburgh again this week, not as long as they're getting healthier on defense each week. So Carson Palmer a sit. Another sit is Josh Freeman. I honestly think the Cowboys are just going to go, they're just going to go nuts on Tampa Bay, and I don't think Tampa Bay is going to be able to catch up at all. Freeman's probably going to get a lot of opportunity to throw the ball, but I don't think it's going to be good for Tampa Bay, anybody in Tampa Bay, to be honest. And on the last of the sit-'em list for quarterbacks, Russel Wilson against Green Bay. We all saw what happened to Jay Cutler. You know, that could have been a product of just how bad Jay is in the spotlight, or it could be Green Bay might have finally figured out their defense. They're coming off a long break. You know, they played early. It's been a while. That defense is rested. They've been playing pretty good. Clay Matthews has been outstanding in the first 2 games. So I think Russell Wilson's going to have a bad day. And Seattle's they're going to have to rely probably a lot on Marshawn Lynch. On the running backs, stardom was Donald Brown. Donald Brown is playing against Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's just been giving up yards like crazy. And the Houston Texans rushed almost 200 yards against them. So I expect the Colts, even though they have a real good quarterback in Andrew Luck, to go ahead and run the ball effectively. So I think Donald Brown is in line for a good game. Another Brown, Andre Brown from the Giants, should also have a pretty good game. Obviously, Carolina is another one of those teams that hasn't been able to stop the run at all. And Andre Brown is in line to get a lot of carries, especially since Jamal Bradshaw is ruled out. David Wilson is the backup, but he hasn't been doing anything. They gave the ball out to Andre Brown, so I can see a big game for Andre Brown in this one. And also, Matt Forte got hurt. You know, they're trying to say it was a high ankle sprain, then now they're saying it's not. Either way, I don't think he's going to be playing this week. So Michael Bush, expect the Bears to give a heavy dose of him in this game, in this matchup against they're playing St. Louis. St. Louis hasn't been, you know, fantastic on defense, so it should be a good game for Michael Bush. He's always been a good play for goal line carries. Now he's actually going to get some rushing yards with it, so he should be a really good fantasy play. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 2 touchdowns and almost 100 yards in this game. So play Michael Bush. On the sit-'em list, Michael Turner. You know, he came off his touchdown performance and he celebrated by getting a DUI. That's not a good way to go ahead and tell your coaches that you have, to have faith in you. So I expect Turner to get some kind of punishment from the team. He might not get suspended or anything like that. He'll probably going to still be the starter and things of that nature, but I think they're going to probably take it out on him this week by not playing him as much, you know, as a punishment, or hell, possibly even benching him this game. But who knows? But Turner against San Diego wasn't a good play anyway, so I will bench Turner. Another guy, speaking of St. Louis against Chicago, I know Cedric Benson did okay against him, but he still didn't crack 100 yards, and I don't expect Steven Jackson to get anything either. Steven Jackson got hurt or he was benched, you know, depending on who you ask. And there's another guy in there right now that's been playing pretty good. So Steven Jackson might be one of those guys who might want to think about trading here real soon. But he shouldn't do much against San Diego, even if he is healthy. Another guy you got to sit, and you know what? This is going to be one of those situations where it's kind of like Jay Cutler or Tony Romo the first week. I tell a person to sit somebody, and usually they'll blow up. I'm hoping, in my case, I'm wrong about this guy. But Chris Johnson has just been so terrible, and for fantasy football owners, and it's been very frustrating. So I'm going to put him on the sit list, hoping that he goes off against, who they're playing. I think they're playing against Detroit this week. And Detroit has been giving up a lot on the ground, but Chris Johnson hasn't been able to run on anybody. Personally, I think the Lions are going to go stomp on Tennessee, so much so that they're going to have to abandon the run game again, and we're probably going to be seeing, Chris Johnson complain even more. But CJ2K ain't going to get nothing. He should be CJ 20 yards because that's all he can get, and I don't expect him to do anything this game either. Alright, wide receivers on the stardom. Steve Smith for Carolina. The Giants defense just has not been the same at all. Their cornerbacks have been pretty bad and injured and no experience, and I think Carolina should have a good game in the air. Tampa Bay had a very good game, and that's what made Eli have to throw so much, so I expect the same from Cam Newton and company, and I think Steve Smith is lined for a big game. Obviously, I was talking about the 500-yard game from the Giants, so Romo throwing so many yards, I believe he'll throw a lot of yards also in this. Miles Austin should have a great game, so start Miles Austin. And another guy that you should probably, is in the free agent wire or is probably out there is Danny Amendola. He's actually a legit receiver. He was doing real good before he got hurt last year, and I think it's a perfect matchup for him against Chicago because the Bears defense, while it's pretty good against the run, stuff like that, it's apt to give passing yards, and Danny Amendola is going to be the only guy that's going to be able to catch anything because the team doesn't have much. So Danny Amendola, another good one to start. On the sit-ems list, there's going to be some big names on here. Larry Fitzgerald. I'm going to have to say do not start Larry Fitzgerald. Kevin Cobb is a terrible quarterback, and ever since he was the starter, last year and things of that nature, Larry Fitzgerald has just been inconsistent. They're playing against a tough team this week, and they're playing Philadelphia, whose defense is actually pretty good. They shut Bolden down. Torrey Smith didn't do anything. I don't see Fitzgerald doing much at all, so sit him. Another big name, Wes Welker. You're starting to see them phase him out of the offense. I think Bill Belichick is pissed off at him, and even with Aaron Hernandez hurt, he didn't get much. I don't see him doing anything against the Ravens, so sit Wes Welker. And somebody that did real good last week, Brian Hartline for the Dolphins. He's playing against the Jets. Revis was out, but now he's back. I don't see Hartline doing anything. I don't see the Dolphins doing much, to be honest, even Reggie Bush, but you never know about that. So, but Hartline, I say sit him. On the tight end list, start Bennett for the Giants. Hakeem Nicks is hurt. I think the Giants are still going to have a great offense, and Bennett's been getting a lot of looks in the end zone. Starting him. Jerry Maclin didn't look right, but somebody that did have a big game was Selleck. Start Selleck with confidence in the tight end spot. And Jason Witten, again, I can't stress enough that the Cowboys offense is going to look like it should have a big game. So Witten might finally break out of the funk. I've told you to sit him the last 2 weeks. He's been horrible, and he has been, but he should be good in this one. On the sit-em list for the tight ends, Kyle Rudolph for the Vikings. I don't see much out of him. Dallas Clark, I don't see much out of him this week. And Dante Rosario for San Diego. Had 3 touchdowns last week, but now Gates is back, so I expect him to be back to his normal role of getting nothing much. So sit him, even though you might be tempted to play him. But that's the stardom sit-em list for this week. Hope you enjoy. Good luck with your fantasy teams. Zig saying peace.